Richard Steele is monitoring the Zoom attendees as well. Our tellers, which are the vote counters, are Dick Gammon, Julie Jose, and Betty and Tom Bradabo. I am informed that we have a certified voting membership of 241 members. And present today, the required quorum of membership in good standing is 15% of the total qualified members, which is 36 members. The number of members present and qualified to vote at this point in the meeting is 49. Thus, we have a quorum to conduct business. Regular votes, such as on the budget and the elections, will be by majority approval, which is at this point is 25 votes. Bylaw amendments will be by 2/3 majority approval, which at this point is 33. And as long as there are no departures from the room or from the Zoom audience, we'll have the membership meeting the quorum requirements. Vote tellers will continue to monitor members present by noting when and if a member leaves or rejoins the room as a result of members' departure or late arrivals. The number of votes to approve a motion may change a little bit, but it should not be too much. So the tellers will keep track of the numbers and the agenda on order. So again, in summary, current membership is 241. The quorum has been achieved, which is 49 out of the 36. And the majority is 25 votes, and 2/3 is 33. So before we can proceed, we need to discuss the matter of proper notice of this meeting. And in order to do that, we need to talk about the suspension of the bylaws. The bylaw requirements for proper notice of this meeting were not fully met. As per item 2 on the agenda, we will now consider a motion to suspend the bylaws pertaining to proper notice of this meeting, as well as a provision that the membership be informed of candidates 4 weeks in advance of this meeting. Such a motion, as per Robert's Rules of Order, needs a second and is not debatable and requires a 2/3 approval of the voting membership. So may I please have a motion to suspend the bylaws and allow this meeting to proceed? So moved. Todd Eckloff provides the motion to suspend the bylaws, and I need a second for that. Sue Steritz has provided the second for the motion. All those in favor, please hold up your cards. Gordon, I have a point of order. Does there need to be a discussion before? Does there need to be a discussion before?
Yes, that would be 1 minute. Yes, we can have inquiry or comments.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Are there any inquiries or comments about the motion to suspend the bylaws? Having none and seeing an almost unanimous card showing, it is passed. So the bylaws are suspended. Okay. At this time, Tom Mosher will share some parliamentary procedures.
Thanks. I am Tom Mosher, and I've been appointed as a parliamentary advisor by the board. And a lot of this has gone on before, and we've in other meetings. Our bylaws do provide, but the board didn't exercise anything, so there are no absentee or proxy votes allowed. We do have a provision where we adopted Robert's Rules of Orders, which technically covers stuff that's not picked up in our bylaws. So the bylaws will rule unless we have something that's not covered in the bylaws, and that's quite traditional for all of these kinds of meetings. As far as voting, we don't cover it in the bylaws, but the Robert's Rule says that the moderator will only be able to vote to break a tie. So he will not be voting. All of the rest of us who are qualified members and were given a card will be able to vote. According to the Roberts Rules, a decision on a motion may be declared passed or failed by the moderator by simply clarifying the outcome if there are no objectors or the numbers are overwhelming, as they were in this last vote. That may apply to accepting the minutes of the last meeting, electing candidates, and a few other cases that we'll deal with one by one if we have to. Regarding bylaw amendments, vote of the numbers needs to be announced for the record, so that may take some time to make sure that moderator has those votes. The issue of calling the question, which comes up before, or move the previous question, there's a procedure to handle that, which we can go through when it occurs. The encouragement is to not do that because it requires a separate vote and a second, and it gets pretty, just gets plain messy. So we'll try to avoid that, but if we need to do that, we can do it, we can handle that. The other thing, when you are commenting on a motion on the floor, be it the budget or any of the bylaws, try to minimize your comments. If somebody's already said what you want to say, just say you support the comments previously given, and you can state whether you're for or against. You should probably do that at the beginning of your testimony. I'm for or I'm against a motion. And if you have an original comment, go for it. And if you are repeating something else somebody has, just say, I support the previous comment. So that'll make our meeting proceed more rapidly. And then there's this matter that Gordon referred to. In order to maintain a clear idea of our voting membership that's here, if you leave the meeting, try to let one of the vote counters know or somebody know, because that may change the number of votes to approve a motion if there are fewer people here. We do have a 2:30 adjournment time, and we probably will not get to that. In the past couple of years, we've not gotten to that point, but we can extend the meeting by a majority vote to approval to extend. And as was reiterated, you need the voting card. The maker of a motion has 4 minutes to make their presentation, and then everybody else has a 2-minute time frame. And Robert Janesian is our timekeeper. And Robert, show the cards and what they mean.
Pretty simple. Yellow is a 1-minute card, and pink, because I didn't have red, is a 30 second. And if I stand up, I'm out of cards.
Yeah. Okay. So that was, the yellow card is 1 minute, and the pink card it's over now. And if he stands up, that means you're really in trouble. Let's see, kind of the typical rules or suggestions of just being polite, not denigrating anybody. If you have a disagreement, figure out how to do it in a respectful manner. If you go off topic, the moderator can say, would you please keep your comments to the motion on the floor and not go wandering off into some other place. And that'll help us get through our meeting. There is a technique if you want to totally kill a motion. If you are recognized by the moderator, you could move to postpone indefinitely the motion on the floor. That requires a second. And debate is allowed. And if it's approved by a majority of the members, then the motion just disappears. The moderator will try to alternate speakers. I'm not sure. What are we going to do for a microphone up front?
I've got a microphone.
Okay, so we'll be up front, and if you kind of are before or for and against, if you kind of line up one side or the other so that he knows this side, alternating, that would be helpful to the moderator. Regarding comments during a motion on the floor, the general rule in Robert's rules that we don't have in our bylaws is that you can't speak a second time until everybody else has spoken, and then you can speak a third time after all this stuff is done, while the talking is done. So those are kind of the general rules for our congregational meetings.
Thank you, Tom. So the next order of business is to approve the 2025 annual meeting minutes. The minutes of the 2025 annual meeting were circulated with the notice of this meeting and have been and are available in Friendship Hall. Are there any corrections to the minutes from 2025? There are no changes. The minutes are approved as circulated. At this time, I'd like to introduce the current Board of Trustees and our Operations Manager. So as I state your name and position, would you please stand up and then remain standing until I am completed? The President, Cindy Fine. She's in position 6 on the board. Vice President, Nancy Avery, position 4. She's walking in right now. There's Nancy, okay. Secretary is Luba Johnston, position 5. Treasurer Dick Burkhart, position 3. I don't think Dick is here.
He's on Zoom.
On Zoom, got it, okay. Doug Deaton, position 2. He's probably on Zoom too. And Tom Mosier, position 1. Currently, position 7 is vacant due to Justin Bell's recent resignation due to a health reason. In addition, Rebecca Adams is our ops manager. She's way in the back there. So let's show our appreciation for all these folks and give them a round of applause. Thank you. At this point, we will also set the date for our 2027 annual meeting. And if there are no objections, the date for the 2027 annual meeting is set for Sunday, June 13th, and the time to be set by the board later on. So Sunday, June 13th. And at this point, I'd like to welcome Reverend Eckloff for his minister's report.
Thank you. I'll have to put that on my calendar later or remember. So yeah, I also extend my deepest gratitude to our board, all of our board members, those who will be remaining on and those who've been at it for a few years now, for all the good work that you've done, all the hard work. And I'm really excited about the year coming up. We're gonna try some new things around policy governance that I think are gonna be wonderful. So thank you all so much for your commitment to the church and for being willing to serve on the board. It's not always a great position to be in that kind of leadership. So thank you so much. But I think we're going to have a fun year ahead. Also, hi, Rebecca. Thanks for being in on your day off. And Rebecca is among one of our very few staff members that I also want to thank for just for the opportunity to work with you. As I said during the service this morning, I think we finally have a real dream staff here, including our musicians and our RE director and our office manager, or I'm calling it our operations manager, but the person who really manages everything, period. Pretty much everything, Rebecca, and she does that with very, very little help. Michelle Caldwell is also somebody whose name I want to mention. Shelley McClellan also is, I think we need to give Shelley the title of sexton because she's now doing the booth. She's helping keep the building in order during the week, and she's also doing all of our facilities hosting. So I think that qualifies you as our sexton. So put that, yeah. Put that on your resume, and we're not going to pay you anymore. But so anyway, thanks to the board, thanks to the staff. I want to thank the congregation for the continued privilege of of being your minister, and for the love and support that you show me. I really appreciate it. This has been a hard year for a lot of reasons, probably the political situation being one of the biggest ones. It's hard for a lot of people, but especially liberals. It's also been a year where we've really had to face the financial reality that is impacting the church. It's been impacting us for a number of years, but those PPO loans kind of helped us put it off for a while, and now it's making an impact, which has resulted in me, of course, going to 3/4 time ministry. Not sure what that means yet, but I'll let you know if you ask me to do something I don't want to do. Yeah, and the good news is, and the thing I want to focus on really is, one, we raised close to $300,000 during our pledge campaign. It wasn't our goal. Didn't reach our goal. But if you look at our numbers, it's really an incredibly generous amount, right? So that's a success story. So learning to live within our means and that sort of thing. But the thing we really have going for us, I think, is our endowment fund. That's something you'll hear more about in a video. But I just want to preface it by saying, if we really want to work toward the financial stability of this congregation, we need to grow that endowment fund. And by the way, it's growing fast. What was it, Rebecca? 3 months ago, 2 months ago, it was $1,030,000, and within a couple of months, it was $1,100,000. If we got to a $2 million endowment, it would really compensate for most of the losses that we've had during the past few years. So the endowment is really the way to grow. So I would encourage anybody who can to contribute to our endowment fund. That's really made a difference, as you'll see. So I am going to really close my report by pointing to a video. Some of you saw a version of this video probably a few weeks ago, but things have changed around the amendment that we were going to be voting on today. So Tom will talk more about that, I think, in a bit. But this is really just my attempt to get out of the politics of it and just talk about the importance of the endowment, so you understand what it's for, what it's done, what it's doing. The only inaccuracy of it is it says this year we're expecting $42,000 toward our budget. That was the case, but thanks to the generosity of our endowment team, they're giving us the full 6% allotted, and that's going to end. Is that 56? Is that what I'm remembering? 56,000 actually going to our budget this year. So really pay attention to the numbers. It's incredible what this has done, and it is incredible what it is going to do for us. So thanks to everybody for letting me be your minister, and for the tremendous generosity you show of spirit, of heart, and of your resources in whatever way you do and can. Hi, everyone. I want to talk to you today about our endowment fund and why I believe we need to protect it. Once you understand what our endowment is for, what it has already done and is doing for us, and what it is meant to do for us, I think you'll agree there is no good reason to ever take or borrow from its principal. So let me start with a little history. When I arrived as your minister in 2011, the endowment stood at about $190,000. It was a meaningful asset, but not one that made a difference to our bottom line, at least not a major difference. Although some argued that we didn't need an endowment, should get rid of it and add what was already in it to our primary bank account. In any congregation, you'll find what has been described as those with green-colored glasses and those with rose-colored glasses. The green-colored glasses look toward the future and want to save as much as possible for a rainy day. The rose-colored glasses look at the moment and ask, if we can't afford to fund our ministry now, what's the point of worrying about the future? Both have valid points of view. But if an endowment isn't being used to satisfy both views, it becomes detrimental to the financial health of a congregation. Here's why. Those concerned about the church's future give generously to the endowment fund, leading to a large pot of money that nobody can access, because the rainy day is never wet enough to justify doing so in their eyes. Those with rose-colored glasses then ask, why is the church always asking for more money when it has $1 million or more just sitting there, which is true now in our case? Well, you see the problem. The endowment is an asset that can't be spent, yet it undermines the congregation's ability to raise what it needs for a bare-bones budget. Having seen this happen to other churches, I asked our endowment team not to make any disbursements from its growth until after it reached $500,000. The team agreed, because we all understood that this is what an endowment is for, to grow large enough so that a meaningful amount from the interest on its earnings can be contributed annually to our budget. And once we did this,
Best ventriloquism I've ever done.
and we- endowment. Hi everyone, I want to talk to you today about standing and promise that its principle would never be touched. People began giving generously. We reached $500,000 by the third quarter of 2017, way faster than anyone imagined or could believe. The following year, for the first time, the endowment contributed $17,000 to our annual budget, more than any other annual fundraising effort had ever generated, with the exception of our annual pledge campaign, of course. As you can see from this chart, with the exception of a small dip during the COVID-19 lockdown, the amount has been increasing each year since. Annual contributions from the endowment went from $17,000, as you can see, and at the time there, all the way up to $35,000 last year, with the promise of $42,000 for this year's budget. That's over $178,000 contributed during the first 7 years. This year's contribution of $42,000 will bring it up to more than $220,000. And that $42,000 alone represents nearly 11% of our total annual budget of $386,583. And this is not a one-time gift. It is a permanent growing income stream year after year. Based on our actual growth rate, we can conservatively project that the endowment's annual contribution will reach approximately $58,000 within 5 years. That means over the following 5 years combined, it will contribute roughly $250,000 flowing into our budget from this fund, more than $500,000 every decade, without a single additional pledge, without a single fundraising campaign. Our endowment now stands well over $1 million. So it is working and doing exactly what it was designed to do and what its contributors were promised it would do. And I want to add something else that is easy to overlook. When I first arrived, our budget was almost entirely dependent on member pledges, nearly 100%. One of the goals of our very first strategic plans was to reduce that dependence. The endowment was our primary strategy for doing so. That strategy is succeeding. Weakening the endowment now would undermine a plan that this congregation made together and is working extraordinarily well for us. Just as important is our own integrity. The contributors who helped us reach its first $500,000, its first $500,000, who gave generously to get us there faster than any of us imagined, did so with a clear and explicit understanding the base amount, the principal, will remain in the fund permanently, in perpetuity. It will not be spent. It will work for us quietly and steadily, year after year, generating income to sustain this congregation for generations to come. That was the promise we made to them, and it would be wrong to forget it, let alone to violate it. To access that principle for any reason, however well-intentioned, however carefully governed, how many safeguards are put into place, would be a betrayal of the trust those donors placed in us. Furthermore, every dollar removed from the endowment principle is not just a dollar spent today, it is a permanent reduction in every future distribution the fund will ever make. The loss compounds in reverse year after year. A withdrawal does not just cost us the amount taken, it costs us the earnings on that amount forever. Taking money from the endowment doesn't give us money to spend, it takes money away from us. We are already receiving $42,000 this year. A $50,000 withdrawal to match a capital fund drive, for example, would meaningfully reduce that number going forward. We would be spending future budget contributions to pay for a present-day project. For the 15 years I've been here, the example given of why we need emergency access to the endowment has been based on the idea that our roof is getting old. And I understand the concern. Roofs do age, but our roof has no current problems. We have redone the flat part of the roof in recent years and replaced shingles blown off during a windstorm several years ago. Otherwise, it's been inspected and is in good shape. And if a catastrophic failure were to occur, a true emergency, we have tools available to us that do not require touching the endowment. We carry insurance. We could conduct a capital fund drive. We could take out a small business loan. These are the instruments congregations use for capital expenses. They exist precisely for this purpose. The endowment is not one of those instruments. It is true that after the turmoil of 2019 and the aftermath of my heretical book, The Gadfly Papers, that we lost approximately $100,000 in annual pledges when roughly 10% of our membership left. We feel that loss every year. I've taken a $25,000 pay cut for the past 3 years and have recently made that permanent by moving to part-time. Additionally, our excellent staff remains woefully underpaid. None of them have ever received a significant and well-deserved pay raise. If there is a slow-burning financial emergency in this congregation, it is not the building, it is that one. And I have not heard anyone propose that we address it by raiding our endowment, nor should they. The endowment is not the right tool for that problem either. My point is simply this. The emergencies that we imagine are often not the ones that, in light of all of this, I'm asking you to protect something rare and genuinely valuable, something incredible that this congregation has built together over many years and that few can claim to have done with our same degree of success. An endowment is not a rainy day fund. It is not a reserve account. It is not an emergency cushion. It is a permanent working asset, money that earns money, so that this congregation's mission is never held hostage to any single year's financial pressures. That is what makes it so valuable and worth protecting. We have the best of both worlds right now. We have a substantial growing fund, now more than $1 million, that provides meaningful and increasing income to our budget every year, and we have that fund itself intact and permanent. The moment that we open the door to accessing the principal, even with good intentions and careful governance, we diminish both of those things. And the reality is, we don't need the amendment. According to our agreement with the Seattle Fund, which manages it for us, and manages our endowment for us, we can withdraw as much as we want from the fund anytime we want. But we won't, or at least we shouldn't, because doing so isn't ethical or necessary. This endowment is one of the most generous and far-sighted things that this congregation has ever done for itself and for the generations that will come after us. We ought to honor that and remain good stewards of our future.
At this time, we'll move forward with the presentation of candidates and the votes for those. Betty Bradabo will be making this presentations.
Okay. The members of the nominating team are, Lisa Conger, Kylen Gelbrecht, and myself, Betty Bradabo. And as chair of the nominating team, I present the following candidates for election to the Board of Trustees and the nominating team. The Board of Trustees candidates, we nominate Liz Gilbert to fill position 1, a 3-year term, Kathy Heaps to fill position 2, a 3-year term, Jacob Johns to fill position 3, also a 3-year term, and James Marsh to fill the remaining 1 year of position number 7. If elected, the board members would be Cindy Fine, Nancy Avery, Liz Gilbert, Kathy Heaps, Jacob Johns, Luba Johnston, and James Marsh.
Could I ask each of those people just to stand up for recognition?
Okay, Jacob's not here. So,
Yeah, here, let me do
is
this.
that it? You do your turn?
Yeah, I'll do my
Okay.
thing. All right. As per Article 5, Section 2B of the bylaws, since there is only one candidate for each of these 4 positions, the candidates are elected by acclamation.
Okay. Nominating team, there are 2 vacancies on the nominating team. And the team nominates Candace Schmidt to fill a vacancy for a 3-year term, and the team nominated me to fill one of the vacancies for a 3-year term. So the team will consist of Kylin Gelbrecht, Candace Schmidt, and me, Betty Bradabo.
And again, as per Article 5, Section 2B of the bylaws, since there is only one candidate for each of these 2 positions, the candidates are elected by acclamation. Okay. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Sue Steritz to join us to go through the endowment team candidates.
The endowment team nominates 2 candidates for the team to be elected by the membership. I am co-chair along with Mary Giannini of the endowment team. The team nominates the following persons to fill 2 positions: Karen Dorn Steele for a 3-year term and Richard Steele for a 3-year term. This coming year, there will be 6 team members: Mary Giannini, Dan Egret, Tom Bradabo, Shane Gronholz, Karen Dorn Steele, and Richard Steele.
Again, as per Article 5, Section 2B of the bylaws, since there is only one candidate for each of these positions, the candidate is elected by acclamation. At this time, I'd like to invite Cindy Fine to come forward with the board presentation.
Okay, the board began its year on July 1st, 2025, with the following officers: myself as board president and Nancy Avery as vice president. Nancy and I worked together as a co-leadership team. Luba Johnston served as secretary, Dick Burkhart as treasurer from afar, and Tom Mosher, Doug Deaton, and Justin Bell were trustees. The board was ably served by Marilyn Johnson as recording secretary, for whom we are immensely grateful, making sense out of our meetings. New board members were welcomed at a retreat and offered an introduction to the policy governance model that our board follows. Finances have been a top priority of the board this year. We began our year on shaky ground and are looking ahead to a budget that cuts deep to the bone. In response, we focused our attention on increasing fundraising and reducing spending. Nancy Avery led the fundraising team with a myriad of fun fundraising activities, a Halloween party, a concert, a winter concert, a Valentine dance, book and t-shirt sales, the auction, Maker's Market, a Real Change collection, a honey raffle, sponsor a song, poetry reading with book signing and sales, and an art show and sale, which was tremendously successful. We appreciate everyone who helped make these events successful, either by organizing, working, and planning, or by participating and supporting. An emergency procedures manual was updated with Board Trustee Justin Bell taking the lead in the spring. In the spring, we regretfully accepted Justin's resignation as he deals with health concerns. A year remains on his 3-year term. We approved a ministerial agreement with Todd, updating one from, I think, 3 years prior, that reduced his time officially to 3/4 in response to his reduced salary. Darrell Vanderlinden was appointed as an ex officio, non-voting, board-appointed trustee treasurer. We continue to work on updating our strategic plan with input from the Congregational Survey, which will be sent out later this month. Finally, we resolved to refocus our attention on policies within statements guiding our work, rather than getting caught up in the operations of the church, which rightfully belong to the operations team. That's it.
At this time, I'd like to invite Rebecca Adams to come up with the finance report.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Followed by the budget.
Followed immediately by the budget.
Yes. I get to present both of those. So on behalf of Dick Burkhart, our treasurer, I'm going to be presenting the finance report. Yep, Shelley's got my graphics up there for you guys. So the financial information I'm presenting today reflects our most recently completed third quarter for this current fiscal year. Just a reminder, our fiscal year runs from July to June every year. Overall, we're remaining close to budget projections. Year-to-date revenues, our revenues are our income, are currently at 96.5% of our anticipated budget, while expenses are tracking at approximately 97%. Our expenses are everything that we're paying out. Most of our departments are currently operating below budget projections, and our major program areas have remained pretty closely aligned with their annual budgets, while some of our smaller areas are currently underspending. That always kind of helps us to balance out at the end of the year. Our final year-end figures will be available following the close of our fiscal year. The end of the fiscal year, like I mentioned, is at the end of this month in June. So we typically have the very end of year numbers by the end of July or mid-August. While expenses remain slightly under budget, revenues are also below projections. Right now, we're operating with an approximate $5,300 deficit. And if this trend continues through the end of the year, the remaining balance of our budgetary shortfall reserve, which is also known as our contingency fund, will likely be used to cover that shortfall. A significant factor contributing to our lower than anticipated revenues is that our fundraising efforts, although very, very successful, did not fully reach our very ambitious goal that we had for that. And also, although we verified every pledge that was made in our last campaign last year for our pledge campaign, we still have quite a few outstanding pledges, so I'm just going to drop a note here that if you have not completed your pledge or you're unsure of what your pledge is, please reach out to me in the office, and I will be happy to let you know what that is, what you still owe on that, and how you can get that payment to us. My email address is located at the very last page of our annual report here, so you guys can ask me that. So I do just encourage everyone to fulfill your pledges if you can. That's going to help us a lot this year. That's about where we're at for our current financial state. So with that, we're going to progress on here to presenting our budget. Shelley, can you move to the first screen of our budget? I know that's incredibly difficult for you guys to see up there. It's very tiny. So if you do have your handout, you do have a budget there. That is the budget summary for our approved budget. So this year, following our pledge campaign, we fell about $30,000 short of what our goal was for our pledges for this year. We held our second budget summit on May 27th. It was a little bit later than we normally hold that summit, but we had some exceptional challenges, starting with having to cut an additional $30,000 out of our already very bare bones budget, which we're now kind of referring to as a skeletal budget. We also needed to reach out to the endowment team, which thankfully came through for us and approved some additional funding for us to help balance this year's budget. We're hoping with some other ideas that we have for fundraising and revenue increases that will only be a one-year additional contribution from them. But as that wonderful presentation Todd gave us a little while ago, that endowment fund is just growing and growing. So hopefully one day that will be our reality, that we get the majority of our funding through that. Every single department had to face some cuts. Pretty much every single area that we budget for had to get some reductions. Most of those are listed throughout in detail in this budget summary with the notes included on there. We did everything we could to avoid cutting any of our personnel because we do have a very small but very effective team. So we cut as much as we can, and we are just requiring more support from our teams and our volunteers to help make ends meet with all the things that we need to do. But that might be a positive thing in getting everyone a little more involved and participating in ways, showing their talents and things they never thought maybe they had, but could definitely share with us. Some of our fundraising goals that we do have for this year to help support our revenues are increasing rentals of the building, which we have to keep in mind that we need to operate within state restrictions and safety guidelines. But we feel that there is some untapped potential there. We also plan on repeating some of those really successful events that our fundraising team came up with, and opening some of those events up to the greater Spokane community to try and increase more people coming through our doors, more people participating in those events, of course, increase funds, but also some exposure and letting people know, hey, we're here, this is what we do, this is why we're different, and yeah, again, another potential benefit there. So that's about all I have to present for that. We did, after the cuts and the increase from the endowment, we were able to get our zero balanced budget. So that was approved at the budget summit and then right after by the Board of Trustees. So does anyone have questions about the budget? Karen has a question. We'll get a mic over there. And this is Karen Dorn-Steele with a question.
Rebecca, you referred to an unusual number of unfulfilled pledges. And my question is, will the office be reaching out proactively to those people?
We already have. Yep. Everyone has been reached out to more than once and in more than one way. We do the best that we can, so we're just trying to get that clearly communicated out to everybody. I wouldn't say it's an exceptionally unusual number. It's just there's a handful of like larger pledges that normally come in before this time that haven't come in yet. So we're hoping, some people forget and some people wait until after the fiscal year is done and they go, oh wait, I forgot. So we do collect after the fiscal year closes for the current fiscal year. It just helps to offset that deficit. But if people haven't fulfilled them, we just ask that they fulfill those pledges. So, yeah. Any questions about the budget? Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. So at this time, we need to move forward with approving the budget. A majority needs to approve the budget. So are there any other amendments or adjustments that need to be made to the budget? Having heard none, I can just declare that the budget is adopted. So thank you. I think we move on now to bylaws, amendments, proposals, and votes. So there are proposals that were or are attached to the notice of this meeting. And at this point in time, I will introduce the people who will be bringing those forward. As we go forward with this, I'd like to ask Tellers and Rebecca if the numbers are the same as when the meeting started today. Is there any change to the numbers of the meetings? Rebecca, would there be any changes to the numbers? No. Okay, very good. So I'd like to introduce Tom Mosier, who will talk about the endowment fund proposal.
Yeah, the bylaw amendment that was proposed was for the purpose of accessing the endowment fund under extraordinary circumstances. And the provisions basically were that it would take an approval of the Board of Trustees or the operations team to withdraw funds. There would have to be a capital fund drive. Any amount withdrawn from the endowment fund could not exceed those raised in a capital fund drive. And finally, it would take a 60% approval of the congregation to cement that deal. So how did we get here? The way we got here was because of a concern that I've had for some time, as evidenced by the discussion from Todd, that we have some financial issues and we have a lot of things going on that were disclosed in a 2002 report that identified all of the projects that were going to be faced over the next 25 to 30 years. And it estimated the amount of life that remained in all of these things, from roofs to the 5 furnaces up over the RE wing to our air conditioning units and our heating units for the sanctuary, the chapel, that sort of thing. They're all aging out, and that is something that we need to be looking ahead at. I looked at how we would do raising money at 50% of a capital fund drive. We raised $54,000 for solar panels in 2010. We had a membership of about 325 to 350. Now we have a much smaller membership, and I imagine we would have trouble raising even $50,000. I also looked into the loans that would be possible at 6.2%, which is what I got from credit unions. And we would be looking at substantial loans in order to cover a large project, and that could be range from $3,000 to $9,000 a year. And then I looked at, and that would be for 10 to 15 years that we would have something going that would come out of our annual budget. And then I looked at, if we took out amount of money, $50,000, $33,000, out of the endowment fund, how much would it reduce the annual amount the endowment fund could provide to our annual budget? And it was a very small amount, $2,000 to $3,000 reduction in the annual amount for that 1 year that we may have a significant capital improvement project. So that was why we ended up with this amendment before us. Now, the endowment team people may be able to testify here and clarify any remarks that I may be making in error. In the last 2 months, the endowment team investigated with the Seattle Foundation, looking at IRS rules, which have a maximum of 6% that we can give out each year annually out of an endowment fund. Those are the rules, the IRS rules. But they have an exception arrangement in there where if the policies of a given institution will declare an extraordinary situation, and that remains to be how that might be defined, and it could be just a board action, not a congregation action, that a larger amount could be taken out of the endowment fund. So despite all the effort I made for 5 or 6 weeks, or 5 or 6 months leading up to this to try to get something in place that would allow this, it turns out it was already there to begin with. We just need to have some policies to figure out exactly how to do that, and the endowment team would probably help the board, and this will happen next year for next year's board, to deal with this situation. So with that in mind, my encouragement is that we vote no on this amendment as not being necessary, because the process and the mechanism is already in place, and we don't need to do this. We just need to figure out if we're ever going to do that. Kind of think about it as raiding your IRA. It's a last resort situation. If you can't raise money from a capital fund drive and the loan to cover a major project is excessive, then this is going to be up to the board, the operations team, the finance team, which we have, that'll be looking at all the alternatives. And if the last resort is we need to tap into that endowment fund, that would be what it might be up to. And, you know, our endowment fund has a section, and it says the USCS shall maintain a permanent endowment fund. The purpose is to assure long-term financial stability of the church. Now, a few years ago, we added by providing monies annually, sustainably, and in perpetuity to the general operating fund. But that is something that could be changed if it needs to be changed, and we may be able to work around that without changing a bylaw if the endowment team and the board can decide on a policy that follows the IRS rules and the Seattle Foundation rules that are the managers of our endowment fund. So that's how we got here with the amendment. Again, I encourage us to vote no on it because it appears it's not needed.
You're taking my papers there. Which one's yours?
There you go. So we need a second on the motion. Actually, we should have had a second before I made my presentation, but I made the presentation. Now we need a second, and then we can discuss it or vote.
So, I'm sorry.
It would take me probably 2 minutes to read the whole motion, but I explained what the motion was, and that was a motion that would change the bylaws to allow access to the endowment fund. If you want me to read the exact wording, I can do that. Pardon?
So Tom made the motion. Tom Mosher made the motion.
Yeah, so we need a second and then discussion.
Sorry. Anna Morrison seconded the motion. At this point in time, can we move to any discussion? So all in, yes, Linda, do you need to, go ahead.
Who suggested the change in the first place?
Just a moment.
Can I ask that?
Who suggested that we change the endowment or added this bylaw?
I could answer. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I could answer that question. I initiated, as an individual, initiated the amendment when it wasn't one that was going to come forth from the board. And there were 24 signatures to bring this before the congregational meeting. And that's how we got here.
Okay, so Tom had made the motion, Anna has seconded the motion. Any further discussion?
Well, we need to know,
We'll get one more hand up. Second.
we need to understand what yes or no means on this.
Okay,
My name is Dan Akert. I'm on the endowment team, have been for years. I strongly suggest that you vote no against this. If we voted for it, it would trigger a whole number of changes required and pretty much eliminate the structure that we've had in the nominating team to make the successes that you heard earlier on both up on the screen and then the documentation you have on what the nomination fund has done. So consider it very strongly. I suggest we say no on this.
so, okay, just to be clear, yes is a motion to us to figure out how to use the endowment fund. No says we can't do that. Is that clear enough? Is that,
Well,
or is that too clear?
that kind of makes it a little muddy. If the motion passes, the bylaw would be in place that would allow access with those provisions, a capital fund drive, approval of the congregation, recommendation by the board and the operations team that we needed to go into the fund, and then finally a congregational meeting with a 60% approval. So if we don't do anything, the bylaws just stay the same as they are and have been for about the last 4 years.
So Todd has a comment, and then Sue Steritz.
Yeah, I just want to clarify two things. One, when this motion was brought to the board, no one on the board supported it except for its sponsor, of course, and the entire endowment team met and voted unanimously against this. What Tom is asking you to do now is to vote no against his amendment, so, which is what I am for too. Vote no against it, please. But it's a little confusing because Tom is the sponsor of it, and he's now, due to recent information, saying, in his opinion, we don't need it. In my opinion, we should never do it. We should find another means. But nevertheless, I support voting no on this. Tom supports voting no on it. So that's what we're asking, at least.
Okay. Sue, do you have any further?
Since I can't repeat everything they've said, I'm in full agreement as one of the co-chairs with the endowment team that we vote no for this amendment, that is not needed.
All right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, raise your cards. All opposed? It is voted down. So, okay. Now, Jean Larson, where's Jean? Jean is going to talk a little bit about the Memorial Garden proposal.
Thank you. Okay. The Memorial Garden team and myself asked for an addition to the bylaws of UUCS as shown. This is on the back of your agenda. Article 16, Memorial Garden, Section 1. UUCS must establish and maintain in perpetuity a memorial garden to remember persons affiliated with the church. And as you know, we've had a memorial garden for almost 25 years now, and it came to the...
We need a second.
Oh,
It's been seconded by Sunny.
okay. This amendment addresses the issue that the church's memorial garden is not mentioned in the bylaws or any other church documents. Members of the Memorial Garden team feel that this garden is an integral part of the church and should be recognized in the bylaws. When the church decided to build a memorial garden, it took on the long-term commitment to always have a place for members to engrave their names in the garden. Should the memorial garden cease to exist, the congregation would not be happy. They expect there to be a space for their names when their death occurs, and the garden will be maintained in a manner respectful of their demise. Records are kept for those who have prepaid to have their names engraved in the garden. And so you can see that the memorial garden has become an essential and necessary part of the church family. Therefore, the mention of the memorial garden should be included as Article 16 of the church bylaws.
Okay, so we have a motion and a seconded to include in the bylaws, Section 16, that the memorial garden will be maintained through perpetuity. Is there any discussion?
Well, one other thing, that if it passes, we'll have to renumber the last agenda. You know, renumbering takes place when you establish a new article that's inserted.
In the bylaws?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any discussion? Dick? Scott?
This may be emotional. My wife has been a member of the.
Dick, hold it up. We can't hear you.
My wife is sorry that she could not. My wife is sorry that she could not be here today because of her ongoing pain at the moment. But she asked me to read this to the congregation at this point. And so I am Judy Gammon right now.
Okay.
I have been a member of the Memorial Garden team since its inception. I do not support this article as an addition to the church bylaws. A little history. The original plans for the area were as a meditation area and a garden. I introduced the idea of adding a memorial feature to the garden, something that my childhood church in Indianapolis had, and so our memorial garden was established. So why am I opposed? Why am I voting no on this article? To say establish a memorial garden is meaningless. One exists. To say maintain in perpetuity is meaningless without saying how that is to be achieved. To say the garden's purpose is to remember I'm a little unsteady here. To say the garden's purpose is to remember persons affiliated with the church is much too restrictive. Its purpose is an individual one to be determined by the individual. I look at this as a place of peace and beauty and as my final resting place. This article serves really no purpose. Please vote no.
Okay. Any further discussion? Nancy?
Yeah, I'll have it close to my mouth. My understanding is that this is all covered in the Policies and Procedures Manual, but I'm not going to speak to it. Rebecca, would you please come and clarify?
Okay, is this on? Oh yeah, there we go. Basically, the approval for the Memorial Garden team that the operations approved, which was management team back then, forever ago, essentially covers everything as far as management of the garden. All of those things, having it, it's already established. They are self-funded and they self-maintain that garden. They are part of our operations in that way, that they're kind of part of our buildings and grounds, and our buildings and grounds team also participates in maintaining that space. I'm not sure whether it belongs in the bylaws or not, but it's already covered as far as existence and maintenance and perpetuity as far as the life of this church, this building, and this property being under our ownership. So it's up to you guys to decide if you want it in the bylaws or not. But as far as how it's maintained, that is already covered.
Could you repeat one more time, Rebecca, in exactly what it's covered?
I believe what is covered is...
No, not what. In what? In what it is covered. You'd mentioned a document. Policy book.
It's in the
Okay.
policy book,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Any other discussion? Sue?
It's been my understanding that it is not in the policy book. But that's where it should be, is one of the arguments. I have seen this team over the years maintain this garden that has almost gone to weeds at times because of lack of help and assistance. I vote in favor of this garden being maintained all the time, and I would like to see it in the bylaws. And if it's in the bylaws, I feel that then it has a stronger support to not go to weeds and be run over, and I can tell my family where they can find me if they wish to visit me.
Todd? There you go.
You know, that's a really good point. To say it's covered in the policy book doesn't mean that we have a policy on the Memorial Garden in the policy book. We have policies are very broad, and they deal with how we deal with teams, right? And how they're managed and how the property's managed. So that's what it means to say that it's covered in our policies already. The problem with writing a bylaw that says this is always going to happen is that doesn't mean anything. Right? If we don't have the volunteers to pull the weeds, there's nothing we can do as staff to get the weeds pulled. You know, there may come a time where we don't have the volunteers and we have to hire people outside to maintain a lot of the property that volunteers thankfully are doing now. But we may have to change how we do things, but to sort of create a bylaw that says you have to do this even if you can't, which is what it sounds like is happening here, right? I mean, if the whole point of maybe putting it in a bylaw will make sure it happens, it is happening. We're not going to neglect our memorial garden because we don't have a bylaw telling us we have to. We're going to neglect it because we can't. Hopefully it won't come to that point. It hasn't in 25 years. But I mean, I honestly was planning on voting for this because this is the third year in a row that we've dealt with this during our annual meeting, and I just don't care. It'll be a meaningless bylaw. It'll be in there. It'll say you have to do something. If we can't do it, we're not going to do it, and we'd have to get you to vote for a suspension of the bylaws again. So,
Any other discussion?
My name's Julianne. I'm on the operations team and help out and done various volunteer jobs as I've been able. I know when I go out there and walk the grounds, looking for critters now lately, but that it's an emotional piece for me, being a part of the community. But thankfully, Rebecca and others have helped me, as well as Tom, to understand why we use bylaws, and then understanding the policies, as I have the binder at home that I review. So it is an emotional piece, but I would say I don't see it fitting in the bylaws. I actually can say that. I've read it enough. Why do we have bylaws? So, and we do have policies. And if it weren't for our volunteers, as we all sit here, we wouldn't have the church that we have, with our minister as our lead and our operations team, Rebecca. So, but I would have to vote no on this one.
Tom?
I am not new to the church.
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. I'm Kathy Heaps, and I am the daughter of Al and Bernie Toutant, and my dad's name is out in the Memorial Garden already. And I am new to the process. I'm just joining, and so I'm not sure about the bylaws and all of that, but what I do know is that is such a valuable space, and it seems in so many ways to support all of the mission statements of this church. And I just wonder, so a couple questions I do have is it the wording of the way it's written or the value of having it in the bylaws? And then the other question I have is, it obviously does need maintenance, and I just would have a question of where is that specifically written, that there are funds that go to maintaining, there's the fountain and other things. So I'm curious about those things.
My name is Jean. I have also been on the Memorial Garden team since the inception of the garden. In fact, I chaired the task force that built the garden, which we did in less than a year. And people in this congregation prepaid for their privilege of having their name entered in the garden. And so we raised the $20,000 that it took to put the garden in place very quickly. And there are probably about 100 names already inscribed out there, and most of you probably have a relative or friend whose name is out there. And it just floors me, but there are people talking against adding this bylaw to the bylaws. One point that came up was that we might not have money to take care of it. Well,
Closer to your mouth.
Oh, sorry. The Memorial Garden has its own funds, and there would be funds to take care of it for many years if there should be a shortfall or not enough volunteers to take care of the garden.
Any other
comments?
discussion?
Linda?
My name is Linda Green, and the endowment team has a thing that says they're going to be there in perpetuity, and you never know if anything is going to be in perpetuity. We just, have to live with what we've got. And we have right now 110 names which are inscribed or engraved in the...
Hey, Linda, can you hold this way?
There-
No, tip it up.
there are-
There you go, yeah.
110 names which are engraved in the garden. There are contracts for 36 more, and we expect more as time goes on. The reason that we want it in the bylaws is because it is a very important part of our community. We want to remember our people, and we remember them best if they have some sort of prestige. The prestige comes from the bylaws. So I vote yes.
Any further discussion? Oh.
Thank you. I'm Mary Jo Kella, and I had promised myself that this time I was going to remain silent through this meeting because I'm in favor of this bylaw because of the principle of bylaws being directions for this relative corporation. All of them. everything that's in the bylaws, to me, is a direction of how we run this business. I'm in favor, although I do understand Judy's perspective as well.
Any other comments? I have one, but I don't want to deprive anybody else from speaking.
No, you can't. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Go ahead, Tom.
This is kind of trying to make a distinction between bylaws and policy and procedures. Policy and procedures can address how we do things and how things are managed, and that kind of gets into the management part that Gina's described. The bylaws are a statement that most people have access to, and few people don't even know we have a policy and procedures thing. So having something buried in the policy and procedures isn't really making a statement to people who look at our organization. They may look at the bylaws, and the Memorial Garden team will be able to say, we have it in our bylaws, this is going to be here forever as long as we exist. And so that's a distinction you want to make. Something that's in the bylaws, more readily accessible, more available, and kind of a statement of a whole congregation, whereas a policy and procedures document is only a product of the board. So my encouragement is, put this in the bylaws. It's a simple statement, and doesn't involve how to do it.
All right. Having no further discussion, we will now vote on adding this to Article 16 of the bylaws. All in favor, please hold your cards and hold them up until they're all counted. Please continue to hold them. Tellers will tell me when all have been counted.
Have to make sure they count.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Betty, did you see Shelley? Okay. Okay.
Oh, and then Donna Brown in the back.
Oh, in the back too? Okay. All right.
This would be
Yeah, I know. Yep.
33.
Yep. Tom, can I have everybody put their cards down now, do you think? And all opposed, please hold your cards up and hold them up till they're completely counted. Yeah.
33.
Yeah, 33. This is the two-thirds vote. I don't know yet. But I think so, because there's not that many cards up right now. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I only got 8. Did you?
It's
8
good,
notes?
it's
Yeah.
good to have, for the minutes, to have
Yeah.
for and against.
Yeah, right. Tom, did you count the noes? One point, Dick, is your vote, well, your wife is voting online? Your wife, Judy's voting online? Huh? No? Okay, all right. What have we got? You can put your guys in. 10 noes? So we had 49, we had, so that would be,
How many
how
in
many
favor,
yeses?
how many against?
What's the total yeses and the total noes? 10 noes? And 51 yeses, 10 noes. So the yeses have it. There's some people online too, so. Okay. All right. So there's 51 yeses to add the Memorial Garden to the bylaws. It is passed. Okay. All right. At this point in time, we have a little time left, and there is an opportunity here for some open forum discussion. Is there anything that anyone would like to discuss? If there is, it's a 2-minute time limit, right? Yeah. Any discussion that would like to come forward? And seeing that there is no discussion, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Would everybody please release your plates and food and cans and coffee cups, please?
Cups are good. Not much to do except read.